Hi, I'm Roberto Martinez and you're watching Toffee TV.
Welcome back to Toffee TV with me, Ped and Baz, brought to you by the Bleacher Report Team Stream app, and we're here to talk about Ross Barkley and his unfortunate injury. It happened last Thursday, was it, I believe, in a behind closed doors game. It looks like a medial ligament tear by the sounds of, according to Roberto Martinez, and obviously it's hit us quite hard.
Yeah, he's obviously a main player, isn't he, for us? And I think we were all, after him signing that new contract, we were all looking forward to see how he developed this season. And I think he's a rarity in our squad because he's probably the only player we haven't got similar to in the squad. So very, very disappointing news on the eve of the season, and have to see obviously the extent of it.
And it had ramifications straight away, didn't it? Because Romelu Lukaku was only supposed to play 60 minutes, 70 minutes on Saturday, and ended up having to play 90 minutes because Roberto Martinez simply doesn't have that many options in that kind of position. And you know, Everton have got an abundance of certain kinds of players. You know, the players left over from the David Moyes era. You know, we've got centre backs, we've got a couple of good full backs, but when it comes to centre forwards, everyone knows we're short. But that position behind the centre forward is even more specialised now. That, you know, the number 10 role effectively, and Ross Barkley is a very, very much an old-fashioned number 10, but very much a new modern version of it.
Yeah, I think obviously, you know, running on from the previous manager, we didn't play this kind of formation, did we? So we haven't naturally overloaded the squad with players who can play in that role for us, and Ross just happened to come to the fore at the time that Roberto took over, and since then it has made that position his own. I think he's definitely one of the most talented players in the Premier League, and if not in Europe, and has the potential to be in the world in that kind of role, because there's not that many players who are similar to Barkley who can drive with the ball. So it's just so difficult to replace him like for like. Obviously the squad can get round with different formations, but to lose a player who's that confident, that talented, just been to a World Cup with England, was ready to go, brand new contract, it was tweeting and everything else about how he couldn't wait to get going again, and for it not to happen in a game is really, really frustrating, I think, for everybody. So really, really
and I think last season we've seen loads of like little cameos. I don't think we ever seen last season like a real game, complete game, did we, from him? We've seen bits and pieces. We've seen him pulled out the team, put back in the team wherever Roberto Martinez felt necessarily. But I felt this season we were going to see a lot more of him. And I think we've mentioned before that he was looking quite strong in pre-season, you know, physically looking strong. He was definitely ahead of those other players who've been to international, to the World Cup. Those other internationals, especially the England players, obviously they're a little bit older than he is, but he just looked like he had something about him. I don't know whether that maybe has been half the problem. He's gone into whatever game he was playing in, maybe a little bit, you know, too enthusiastic with the game, right? You know, right, starts the season right on the doorstep. But that's Ross Barkley, isn't it? That's all part of his makeup.
He just wants to play, doesn't he? He's a young lad. He did look ahead of a lot of players. He looked ahead of players who hadn't even been at a World Cup in pre-season. So he is that type of lad. He just wants to play. He's very much an old-fashioned kid that's come through this. You know, it's all still exciting to him. He's playing for his boyhood club and everything else. Very, very exciting. So it's a massive blow for him and for Everton at the moment, and England, of course, as well.
Well, we'll mention England in a moment. But just looking at the Everton's team at the moment, obviously he wasn't in there for the first game at Leicester. It was sort of become a little bit makeshift for that game. Stephen Naismith sort of filled in the gap, but played, I suppose, more just off the shoulder of Romelu Lukaku at times. But there really is no one in the squad who can fill that position.
No, I mean, obviously you've got the likes of Kevin Morales who could probably go in there and is good at running the plays with the ball. But I think the thing that Barkley gives you, he gives you that bit of both, doesn't he? He's got a little bit of steel about him. He likes to put a tackle in. But he's so good at travelling with the ball. He'll pick the ball up and take it from one penalty area to the other. And what that does is, when you're driving at defences, it causes all kind of gaps and things like that. So Everton, like I said before, haven't really got a like for like in that position. There's players who can go and plug the gap, will offer something a little bit different. Stephen Naismith offered probably a bit of desire around Lukaku, good in the air and stuff, but he's not someone who's going to travel with the ball, and those players are so difficult to find. So that's why, like you say, we'll have to find, Roberto Martinez will have to solve that problem some other way.
What about a player, obviously, who started the season well against Leicester, Stephen Pienaar? Do you think he could possibly play in that role? Not the same as the way Ross Barkley's approached the season, but do you think he could possibly fill in that number 10 role?
Definitely, of course, it's where he played for South Africa, didn't he? He did play as the main playmaker, the tip of the diamond, if you like. So he could definitely play that role. He's clever enough. He can play both ways, Stephen Pienaar can. He can go either side. He can pick a pass. And I think as long as you've got runners off him who are quick, I think he'd get away with it. Because obviously he's 32 now. He's not the quickest around. But in terms of protecting the ball, and he gets hold of that ball and he's quite clever. And Roberto Martinez has actually mentioned him for that role, hasn't he? So maybe that's one option he's looking at.
And obviously we're coming towards the end of the transfer window as well. I don't really think Roberto Martinez would be looking to sort of bring a replacement in. He might be looking to bring a player in who's similar to Ross Barkley, who can go against him when he's fit. But I can't really see him spending any money on a player that could come in and maybe play in that position. But it might only be for 3 months, possibly at most.
Is there anyone out there? Is there anyone out there? I think, like I said before, I think the thing with the likes of Ross Barkley, what makes him such a special player is there's only a handful, if that, who play that role as well as he does. In terms of what he's got, is he's tall, he's physically strong, he's got great feet, he's powerful, he's skillful, he's quick. He's the complete player. And I think there's only the likes of Yaya Toure, who's quite similar to him in that role now, who's around, certainly with that similar physique.
And Everton aren't buying Yaya Toure.
Everton are not getting
Yaya.
Yaya.
Got enough birthday cakes.
Well, I was going to say we could offer him a birthday cake, but I think when you look around, I think it'd be foolish to try and think, well, we'll just get someone to come in and sit in that role for a couple. It's not going to work like that. So.
Because we look at it and we look at it at the moment. Think, well, midfielders at the moment, Besic is in there. Gibson can be a player who can come in and fill in a space. Obviously, McCarthy's already in there, Barry's already in there. There are candidates who can come in. Obviously, Naismith started the season playing there, and we all know Roberto Martinez likes Naismith, so that might be somewhere where he can play. Maybe not the same way Ross Barkley can play, but maybe that can be a way to play. There's a lot of confusion about time scales. Initially it was 8 weeks, and then after the Leicester game, Roberto Martinez said, well, we have to see that second scan. The swelling hasn't gone down. We need to see the second scan to say what it really is. He said these things can take 8 weeks, but I've seen them up to 5 months. And then next minute, everyone jumps on top and go, oh, it's going to be 5 months. And then what you get from that is people take that even further and go, well, it's going to be 5 months. It's going to be the season because, let's be honest, in the last year, Everton only seems to have had serious injuries. You look at someone like Kone, you look at someone like Darren Gibson, you look at someone like Brian Oviedo. Everything seems to have been long term, and when they've got them, they've been diagnosed, and it's diagnosed as one thing and then suddenly becomes the next. Even if you just take Brian Oviedo, yes, it was a straightforward leg break, if there ever is a straightforward leg break, but we were told there was a possibility he could be back for the World Cup, and it's August now and he's not going to be back till September. So Darren Gibson's still not there. Kone's still not there. So I think everyone assumes the worst, don't they, straight away?
Definitely. I think the thing with Oviedo, if there wouldn't have been a World Cup, that timescale would never ever have been even mentioned for that. I think they wanted to let that settle down. That was his target, and he wanted to let it settle down. The Kone one was something different. It was bad then, it wasn't as bad, and then it turned out to be terrible. I think the thing with Barkley is, he's, again, like we've said before, he's a young lad, he's a quick healer. I think Martinez is erring on the side of the caution, but I think Everton realistically are looking at 6 to 8 weeks for this one.
Well, fingers crossed, but it's funny, isn't it, because when that first happened, everyone went 6 to 8 weeks, oh no, and then when they had the 5 months, when it came back to being 6 to 8 weeks, it was like, yes, it's only 6 to 8 weeks. It's funny the way,
and there is an international in that as well, so it does.
And there's not really any big games, are there, in that time scale? I can't really think of any big games. But footballers get injuries, and it's all about coming back. And one thing you can say about Ross Barkley is he suffered, a horrendous injury that took a couple of years out of his career, and he come back from it strong. So mentally we know he's got that in him already, and this hopefully should just be a piece of cake, and he should be able to just get through quite easily.
Well, you'd think so. fingers crossed again, like you said before. But I think the one thing that it may be, if you can take positives out of anything, is it may give him that little bit of time to mentally prepare for the season. He's had a first real breakthrough season at Everton last year, where the position became his own and he became one of those first names on the team sheet. Then he went away with the World Cup, and then obviously he's come back and he's itching to get at it, and he's been injured. So maybe it'll give him that little 4, 5, 6 weeks to calm down and get ready for the real stuff, and hopefully Everton will benefit in the long run.
Well, and as we mentioned, you know, we did say we would talk about England. He's going to miss England international, and we all thought, you know, whether you like England or not, we're duty bound to talk about it. He's going to miss that game, and we all thought, you know, coming back from the World Cup, there is this. Well, we're hoping now there's a new crop that'll be brought into the England, a new era.
Don't say a new golden.
No golden era. Just a new era with the likes of, you know, Gerrard's retired. Obviously, Lampard needs retiring. But you were hoping that Ross would get in there now and hopefully make that position his own, and this has just slowed that process down a little bit. Yeah,
and of course he'll miss the friendly, and then there's a couple of qualifying games that he'll miss, so he's already out the first kind of round of England games. But I think, look, he's 21, and like I said, he's one of the most talented players around, so I think if it's not now, it'll be soon that he'll cement that place. So I think, as an Evertonian, I'm more worried about him playing for Everton than I am for England, so we'll see where we go with that. But I don't think he's got anything to worry about where England are concerned.
But as we reiterate, come back to Everton, it is a massive loss, and he's going to be sorely missed for the next few weeks, just because there are a lot of big games. There are, you know, Arsenal.
People watching this will be thinking, you said there was no big games.
Well, there are a lot of big games, you know, the likes of Arsenal, Chelsea, you know, Liverpool, and then there's other games, you know, which are going to be tough, and sometimes you just need that moment of genius to separate, and sometimes that's all it is in the Premier League. It's the moment of genius that separates very dull games at times, especially in the early part of the season as well. I mean, when the season gets going and things start happening, and there's risks start happening, people are going for leagues, or there's relegation situations, things start becoming stretched. But early on in the season, you find games can be very, very close, as everyone's got the best squad, and sometimes you just need that star player, and that for me is the real sort of issue behind this injury.
Definitely, and like we said, he looked really good in pre-season. He looked quite sharp, and he might have had more of an influence on those first 4 or 5 games than potentially he may have in November, December, because of everything else that's evened out. But we haven't got him, unfortunately, and it's a big blow, but that's the challenge now, isn't it? Injuries happen in football, and the challenge is how you recover from them as a team and as a player, and obviously in Roberto Martinez, I'd say we're in safe hands.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed he's back soon. This has been Toffee TV. Don't forget, get in touch with us on Twitter at ToffeeTV1. Make sure you leave your comments well on YouTube. That's youtube.com/EFCTV1. You can find us online on the internet, toffeetv.net. Big thanks to the Bleacher Report, the Team Stream app. We'll be back soon.